Welcome, welcome, welcome to this lesson 56 of Wednesdays with EWAT. This is me, Shanti Kumaraswamy Street, your business English coach, calling from London to all of you, wherever you are. This is Wednesday, the 21st of February. I'm hoping that I am tuning in to some of you. We're going live from London, 3 p.m. GMT, UK time, on this lovely day in February. I think it's lovely. I'm not too sure about you. Are you having a lovely day in February? Was it a good day for you? Maybe you're at the end of your day, or maybe you're at the beginning of the day. So tell me, or maybe you're in the middle of your day. So how is it going? So do come in. As you're coming in, let me know who you are, where you're from. If you're one of my regulars, ciao, this is me, Shanti Kumaraswamy Street. Lovely to see you. I can see some people have come in. Antonio's watching. Hello, Antonio. Lovely to see you. Alicia, hello from Argentina. Hello, Argentina. Whereabouts in Argentina are you from, Alicia? And anybody else? Hi, hi, Antonio. Lovely to see you here on Facebook at this live lesson, Wednesdays with EWAT. Can you imagine, folks? We are lesson 56. This is great stuff. So what are we talking about this on this day? Well, I think it's the second last Wednesday of February. This week we're going to be focusing on productivity. So lovely word that we use in business, don't we? All businesses are very keen on us being as productive as we can in our work, in our lives. Yeah, so productivity is a key word that we have. Ciao, Maria, how are you? Lovely to see you. Now, as people are coming in, just to let you know that we're talking productivity. So before I talk about today's topic, I'm saying hi to Batul. Hi, London to Syria. Keiko, hi. Lovely to see you here again. And so just to remind you, if you're wondering whether you're in the right place, English with a Twist is where you as business professionals are looking to communicate effectively and confidently in your work with English, right? So whether you're dealing with native speakers of English or non-native speakers, and the language you need to communicate in business is English. So here is where I help you, coach you into becoming more confident, effective, and empowering you to become the communicators that you want. So that's what we're about. I do not teach IELTS. I do not teach grammar. I am here to help you to feel strong, to feel capable, to feel empowered in communicating in business with English. And English just happens to be that language that you need. Evelyn, hi. Okay, happy work. Can't listen to me right now. Hope you can catch us with the recording. It'd be lovely. And also, maybe share your comments later when you listen to the recording. I hope you're not working too hard. Okay, talking about work. So we are looking at productivity. Sorry. Oh gosh, here I'm trying to think of too many things. That's why I'm trying to be so productive that I'm forgetting things now. So for those of you who haven't subscribed and joined the EWAT community, then I would strongly recommend that you do so. So after this class, have a look, go on to englishwithatwist.com and join the EWAT community. EWAT community is growing in strength, and it's a lovely community to be in, and you will receive not just this weekly lessons directly on the website, but you'll also get my weekly audio blogs on a Friday, and of course you have access to my library of business idiom videos. So that'd be lovely if you can all join. So I've got here Maria Graciela from Hong Kong, Gabi in Argentina, Buenos Aires in Argentina. Gabi, so lovely to see you again. I know you couldn't make last week. I'm hoping you managed to catch up with the recording. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as you come in, if I don't say hello to you, Please don't take it the wrong way. It's probably because I'm just in the middle of the class, so I'm just going to keep chatting. So as we said, if we're all set, let's talk about this wonderful word productivity. As I said, it's a buzzword that we love in the business world. Or if you work for a company, our companies want us to be as productive as possible. Basically, they make us work and they get their money's worth out of us. You know, perhaps you work very long hours, or you have to work maybe on certain projects, and maybe you have one-off projects and you will have to work very hard on those. Right, now what I'd like to start off with is to ask you how have you had a productive day? If you're coming to the end of your day, have you had a productive day? Have you had a good day? And if you've had a productive day, or if you're still in the middle of your working day, then are you having a productive day? Please share with me in your chat box. You know, are you having a productive day? I am, yeah. So far, it's 3 o'clock in the UK. So I started early this morning because I had a class at 7:30 this morning. And, you know, I've been working on a number of things. So, you know, I feel, yeah, it's been pretty productive. On a Wednesday, I also break off around about lunchtime to go for my run. So far, for the moment, it's been productive. How about you? Have you had a productive day? Are you having a productive day? Please share with me. I'd love to know. So I'm opening up the Facebook page here so I can see any of your comments. So let me know. I can see that Roberto is watching. Hi, Roberto. Lovely to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. So Maria, Antonio, Alicia, Batul, tell me, have you had a productive day? Okay, the next question I want to ask you is, if you've had a productive day, what is a productive day for you? So, you know, if I ask you, how is your, have you had a productive day? And you say, yeah, great. But what is it for you? Andrea, hi. Hello, Romania. Lovely. Welcome to EWAT, if this is the first time for you. So what is a good productive day for you? For me, it's, for example, you know, being able to complete my to-do list. How many of us, how many of you prepare a daily to-do list at the start of your day, or maybe at the end of your working day for the following day? I don't know about you, but I do that. I'm quite, you know, religiously, you know, I set out what I plan to do for the following day. I have also my weekly plan that I want to do. And then at the end of the day, I tick off what I've managed to do. And if I've managed to do maybe 70 to 80%, then I feel it's been a productive day. What do you think? Is that the same for yourselves? I think most people are like that, but maybe you have a different way. Please share with me. Don't be shy. This is not just a one-way conversation, please. Although I can't hear you, you can certainly join in the chat box. Because I am curious to know, because we all have different ideas of what productivity is for us. Yeah, and so I'm talking about it, you as a person. We can talk about business productivity in a different way. And we'll look at that. But, okay, so I have this daily list and I work it out. I put my list together, and then I think, well, if it's, as I say, 60-70% of my, you know, my list is ticked off and I've managed to complete it, I feel really good. Come to the end of the day, I think, oh, it's been a productive day. I've managed to do what I wanted. Here's the thing, though. What makes you decide on what to add on that list? Yeah? What makes you decide, okay, for today, I've got to do this, 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 right? Great. But what is, what's your criteria? What is your criteria for creating that list? Share with me. Hi, Zoe, I can see you're watching this. So I'm seeing very silent. Nobody wants to share with me. Are you all being terribly shy? or you've just all gone to sleep and you're not watching and following the lesson. So, okay, so for me, I'm just going to share. Okay, so Gabi, you were saying I was preparing material for my classes this weekend. Yes, I think it was a very productive day. So today you were preparing your material. Great. Fantastic. So you think it's a productive? You managed to complete all what you wanted to do, Gabi? Yeah, so great. So there's that feeling of satisfaction. You think, great. Okay, so wonderful. So for you, a productive day in terms of work is I've managed to complete that. So now we go back and think, well, what makes you decide what is going on to that list to start with? For me, it's what are the important things I need to do and complete in that day, that week, or that month. In other words, it's prioritizing, right? I mean, you will have things like, so for example, on a Tuesday, in the morning, I will set out to write my blog post for the audio blog that gets published on a Friday. So I set aside, a chunk of time, and I'll write, sketch it, prepare it, write it, and then I format it, and then I record it for the audio. So if I have that full morning where I've managed to do some research, prepare, write, and by the time lunchtime comes and I think, yeah, that's done, for me it's really productive. And the reason I set it for the Tuesday is because I know I have to get that done in order for it to be ready for publication on the Friday. Maria, you're saying a productive day is when it has been a day full of good work. Exactly, but what is a day of good work for you? What makes you decide that? How do you decide what is a day full of good work? Because look, all of us have a lot of work to do. We're all busy professionals, right? We all have lots to do. You probably have a to-do list that is, the length of, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 pages if you wrote it out, and you think, gosh, whoa, I have so much. Of course, you can't get it all done in one day, maybe even over a week. So what are you going to do? You are going to prioritize. You are going to decide what needs your attention first and categorize in terms of maybe priority. Maybe you have deadlines. So if you have certain deadlines, you're going to prioritize. If you have certain, so if you've got upcoming projects, you're going to have that. If you have deadlines in a week that you have to produce things, maybe it's preparing for classes, or maybe it's preparing for a meeting. Maybe you have a presentation coming up in the next couple of weeks and you need to prepare for that. Or you have a meeting and you've got to prepare the information, the document. Yeah. So without realizing it, you're probably constantly doing that. You're prioritizing, you're deciding, right, okay, so what goes first? I've got this list. I can't do it all. So I'm going to prioritize. And you're going to decide what you're going to tackle first, what you're going to do first, right? Okay, good. So we've done that prioritizing. Wonderful. And now my question is, you've decided what is important. Okay, so maybe that will be that presentation you have to give. Maybe you have to prepare for that particular meeting. Now, in our work, if you think about where would you spend most of your time on? You have a business, for example, and you have a business where you get business, you've got customers, you have clients. And in all businesses, we have to decide who to spend our most time with, where we need to allocate our resources, right? And our resources could be our time, our people, our knowledge, lots of things, right? And we have to decide. What makes you decide what is important? Who is important? So if you run a business, who are going to be your most important clients? Or, you know, so in terms of a business, your most important clients. In a lot of cases, a lot of businesses will look at the clients that provide 80% of their revenue, right? So we're going to focus on the clients that give us the most business, the clients that give us the most referrals, maybe your best performing products. Maybe you have products and they are best performing because you get the best sales from them, and so consequently you are going to focus your attention on those products, maybe in terms of improving them, improving the marketing. Maybe you are going to look at doing more, more investment on it in terms of research and development, depending on the type of business you're in. I see here I've got a client, Domenica. Hi, lovely to see you here. For example, Domenica, I'm sure you don't mind if I mention that you work for a company that produces medical devices. So if you're a company that produces medical devices, you are going to look at your best performing product. The best performing product is going to be the ones that are in demand, the ones that generate the most revenue for you. So on that basis, you are going to then allocate your resources, your research, R&D, research and development, most of your money and your budget into that area. Now, you know what I'm talking about, right? When we talk about productivity, we are talking about applying the 80-20 rule. The 80-20. So 20% of your clients generate 80% of your income. So have you heard of the 80-20 rule? You may have noticed that on the Facebook page, I wrote a blog about it last week, and I wanted to share with you in this lesson, the 80-20 rule. So in business, in productivity, we always say that 20% of our clients generate 80% of our revenue. Or maybe you could say that you spend, maybe 80% of your efforts goes, we can look at it in terms of also calculating how much time you spend on a project. So you are, sometimes you think, well, if I'm spending 80% of my time on a project, which is only going to generate 20% of my income, often we apply this 80-20% rule to see, well, how productive is this? Is this the best use of my resources? Should I be applying this? Should I be doing something different? So the 80-20% rule is a very useful measurement to measure how productive, how effective we are in our work, in our personal life. For example, say you want to lose weight, and you find out that, and you go running. So, you spend 80% of your time, you do cardiovascular, workouts. So you go running, you do swimming, you go cycling, wonderful. Then you find out that actually that you only need to spend 20% of your time, and what you could do is more effective training, like working out in a gym and doing interval training, a mixture of weights and cardio, and you would then get 80% results. So suddenly the balance is all wrong. 80%, spending 80% of your time running to getting only 20% results, when you could switch it and spend 20% of your time to get 80% result, makes much more sense. So suddenly you have to rethink how you're trying to get fit, how you're trying to lose weight. In the same way in our lives and in business, it's all about being efficient being effective, being productive. You know, a lot of people now talk about how we can work smarter. You know, no point working, you know, what's the point of working 10, 20, 12 hours when you're only going to be efficient for 20% of that time, right? Say, for example, you work very, very long hours, but actually what you manage to generate at the end, how productive you are, is very little. Whereas if you worked in a better way, working fewer hours, but really concentrating on that time, in that particular time, you would be far more effective. There are a lot of studies out there on businesses, on companies doing this, HR, looking at how we can improve people's productivity. You know, this work-life balance, right? It's the big thing that we do. So we all find ways. There are moments when you think, what am I doing? I'm spending far too much time on this particular client who's driving me absolutely crazy. I'm constantly answering their phone calls, constantly answering their emails. And really, what is he earning me? Hardly anything. You know, I'm earning nothing. 20% of my overall income comes from this one client, and he or she is taking 80% of my time. This is totally a waste of resources. I should be spending more time on something else. Okay, all this talk of productivity. 80-20. And by the way, this 80-20 rule, does anyone know where the 80-20 rule comes from? Where did it originally start? Can anyone share? I can't see anyone talking to me today. I can't understand. Are you all asleep? Please wake up. Now, ciao Domenica, lovely to see you. Hello from Thailand, and I'm afraid I can't read your name because it's in Thai, and of course it's in Thai script. I'm so sorry, but hello. Hello Thailand. So lovely. Wow, this must be quite late for you in Thailand. It's nearly bedtime, isn't it? Right, let me see. Maria is here. I think it's Maria rather than Luigi. Hi, Maria, lovely to see you. Okay, now, so we're talking productivity. Now I want to ask you, so the 80-20 rule, do you know where it comes from? Where it originally comes from? Well, I'll tell you, the 80-20 rule is also known as the Pareto principle. And Pareto comes from the Italian economist Vilfredo Pareto, Italian economist, but also he lived in Switzerland for a lot of his life. And he came up with this economist when he was looking at, he was studying the productivity of, he was looking at from the economic point of view of production in Italy. And this was in the late 19th century. And he observed in the 19th century that 80% of Italy's land was owned by 20% of its population. So in economic terms, when you look at, we apply the 80-20 rule, we often find that 80% of the world's wealth is owned by 20% of its population. Yeah, and we can often see that. We see that also when we think about economy. We think also about food distribution. Yeah, some countries have a lot of food and other countries have very little. And 80% of food distribution is in 20% of the world's countries, which seems such a huge imbalance. And in business, as I mentioned, we're looking in terms of productivity. And again, of course, maybe also on a personal level, you might look at it in terms of, you may find that 80% of your income, for example, is spent on a few items like your mortgage or your rent, your bills or food, right? So it leaves you very little left, but 80% goes on very few items. So so it's a great way, the 80-20 rule, to measure our productivity and to make the adjustments that we need, which is what we all try and do. So kind of always balancing this. Now, I thought a lot about this 80-20 rule, and I I've always wondered to myself, how could we apply the 80-20 rule to your business English learning? Just in the same way that you do this in work, how could you apply the 80-20 rule to your learning? And this is where I want to say, oh, Gabi, I'm so sorry that the connection's bad. Or maybe you just can, yeah, hopefully you can, you can join us with in the recording. I'm sorry. Yeah, sometimes it's just like that, isn't it, when you have bad connections? So sorry about that. See you maybe next week, hopefully. Right, okay, so I want us to look at, and I want you to think about how you could apply the 80-20 rule to your learning. Now, if you remember in 2 lessons ago, we talked about, you finding me time to incorporate your English into that leisure time, finding, deciding on where you could set aside, pieces of time to then dedicate to your English learning. It's a challenge. I know we all have that. It's a big issue for all of us. But it is something that we need to do, because as I've talked about in this month, talking about the theme of time, is we're never going to get more time. So we need to find it. We need to make that time. So once you've established, I could fit my English into these situations and I could fit it into my leisure activity. So once you've done that, so that's your first step in achieving your goals. You set out, you thought, right, this is what I want to achieve and this is where I'm going to fit it. So you schedule it into your diary, you look at your diary, you think, great, this is where I'm going to focus, this is where I'm going to work on my English. Now, the next step is you need to now decide what you're going to learn first. You've got to focus on what you're going to learn to start with, right? And this is where prioritizing what's important. Yeah, that famous to-do list. Again, you have to decide what is important, what needs your attention now, and what needs your attention later. Yeah, so you've got your first tier, your second tier, and your third tier. The same way you need to apply in your English learning. Yeah, so decide. You think, right, this is what I've got to do. Now I've got to, I've set aside the time. Fantastic. First step done. Now my second step is, okay, this is my goal. What do I need to learn to achieve my goal? Because here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. You cannot learn everything about the English language. Not possible. It's amazing when my clients say, Shanti, but I want to learn everything. You're never going to learn everything. I don't know everything in the English language. How can you possibly do it yourself in the time that you have, which we've already established is quite limited? And the thing is, here's a piece of news maybe you didn't know, but really, you don't need to learn everything. You need to apply the 80-20 rule. You only need to learn what you need. And here's what we need to do. For example, do you really need to know all the names of animals? Or all the words of office stationery? If you are running a business, or you deal with marketing, or you are involved in HR, human resources, do you need to know about all the words in, the animal words, or all the different items on office stationery, or all the different words to describe the weather? So if you go to a business, if you go into an English course, this is what you'll have, right? You'll learn, today we're going to learn all these words. And you think, wonderful, good to know. But it's not the best use of my time. because hello, I have a goal here. I need to achieve it in a limited space of time. So I need to focus on what's important here. And the weather is not important for me. Thanks. So you need to decide if 80% of your communication is going to be in one area of your work, then you need to focus on just that language and only that language. In other words, 20%. So if 80% of your, I'm going to repeat that. If 80% of your communication in English is, say, for example, phoning your clients, your suppliers about your area of work. Say you're involved in logistics. Say you work for a medical device company, but in your department, in what you do is dealing with suppliers, dealing with hospitals, or whatever it is, and you have a very focused job. And what you need to communicate in English is on this. So that's the bulk of your work. And you need to feel confident when you're communicating in this area. Well, doesn't it make much more productive sense to concentrate on that, the language for this particular area? And not focus on, I don't know, phrasal verbs, or the different collocations of the verb to get, or, animal words, or the weather, No, let's focus on that. You set yourself the goal. You've dedicated this short period of time that you've got. Now decide what's important, right? I've worked out, I need to get this. So let's have a look here. You need to concentrate on your 80%. For example, say, as you say, you've got your clear specific role. I need to write clear, concise emails to my suppliers about the medical devices that you're preparing, right? The bulk of your work in English, the bulk of your communication, 80% of your communication is in English. In English is on writing to suppliers, right? So it could be, for example, sending and responding to inquiries. It could be submitting orders. It could be clarifying delivery times. It could be discussing, payment problems. We've sent you the payment, what's happened here, blah, blah, the usual. And, look at it and you just think, okay, so this is generally the sort of emails I get, and this is how I got it. And this is what I need to do. And I want to be able to reply to these emails super quickly instead of, and I'm going to do that. So that language you require is very specific and limited to language for shipping, deliveries, logistics, payments, banking, so understanding international bank transfers, sort codes, whatever you need to do your job. So, as I say, knowing how to talk about the weather and how to talk about sports, whilst that is a nice to have, it is not a must have. Not for the limited time you have, right? It would be wonderful, but it would be a complete waste of your time and totally unproductive, because it's not going to help you write those emails. So we are going to put that language into your little folder of nice to have. And I'll do it some other time. Now I need to concentrate on this. So you need to concentrate on your 20%. So this is where you need to look at, okay, I need to focus on this, and this is where I'm going to work on. So you need to discover the 20% that you need, and you will realize that it's a limited vocabulary, fairly limited. No matter how proficient we are in English, in your own language, in whatever language we are, we only use a very small percentage of the language. Yeah, we only use a small amount. Yes, Maria, it is. It depends on what is your goal. And that's why I'm always saying to clients, you have to work out what your goal, and you have to set your small goals. That big long goal of fluency will not work because it's not going to be helpful to break it down. That's what we need to prioritize. We need to say, okay, I've got my big goal here, but now I've got to break it down. I've got so much time. What is important now to do? Just like we do it at work, just like we do it for ourselves, we've got to do that for our English, for the English. And that's what you need to do. You've got to think seriously, okay, what's important now? And I spend a lot of time with my coaching clients about this because I go, what is important? What is important to work on? Great, Gabi, so glad you're back. Yeah. So if in the next, this is what is, causing, anxiety, maybe you're worried about this, you want to get better at this, then fine, fantastic. Let's work on that. Now, the language you're likely to use, as I say, is going to be fairly limited. You probably already have that language, but what you want to do maybe is, get better with that. Fine tune it, have better grammar, have better vocabulary, or maybe add a few more adjectives. Maybe make your sentences clearer so that when you're writing those emails, they're quicker and clearer. Now, because you've brought it down to the 20%, it's much more manageable to then deal with it, and it's much more productive for you. Yeah, so as I say, because no matter how proficient we are in our language, we only know a certain percentage of our language. You'll see lots of studies. And also that, we might have a lot of passive vocabulary in our brain. So in fact, that when you're reading, you will know a lot of language. Yeah, maybe new words. In fact, maybe with your English, when you're reading in English, a lot of my clients, their reading ability is a lot stronger than their writing and their speaking ability, because it's that passive knowledge you have. So you'll read and you'll know a word. But if you are, but then to reproduce it, it's much more difficult. Because what happens is that we will depend on just a bank of frequently used words. And often we just keep using the same words. Because time is precious. Time is of the essence. Time is money. We don't have time to sit there and think, oh, I'm going to think of another word today. No, I just need these words. And in business, we need to look at efficiency, being productive. And that's what we're going to do. The same way with your English. So look at the language you can't normally use. And then build a bank of vocabulary, phrases, and expressions. And those are going to be your frequently used words and expressions. Oh, Luciana, I'm so sorry. Also, Gabi, was saying that there's also been an internet connection, problem there. So as I say, you already have probably the vocabulary, and you just now maybe need to make it more polished. Maybe add a few more words, and I say work on the grammar. Suddenly, the job that you have to do, the task you have to do, is not as huge because you have narrowed it down, you've brought it down, and you're focusing on that. And I tell you, this is so much more productive because then you begin to see the results. That's what we've got to do. That's what we do all the time. Again, like Maria said, it all depends on your goal, and it also depends on what you need to do. So decide what is it you need to do. If all your emails are very functional, or your presentations are fairly functional, or your phone calls are very direct and we're dealing with just certain things, then fine. That's what you've got to do. Now, if you need to write sales marketing marketing literature, or you need to persuade a client to do something, then the language is more complex. then you will need a set of tools that are different. Again, you will probably have that vocabulary if you've already been doing that. But maybe that will need a bit more work. So then you build on that. But you're then developing, what do I need to do? If this is going to be taking 80% of my time because this is what I do the most, I need to concentrate on this. So then take that time to work on it. Again, it's deciding what is important and what deserves your attention now. Not in 6 months' time, not in a year's time. Now, focus on that. You might say, oh, but 20% of English words and expressions, I want to learn all of them. But no, it might seem very little to you. But no, because if that's the one that's going to get your job done, it's going to get you able to communicate efficiently, getting those contracts, getting those payments, getting that presentation going, getting that meeting, then you've done your job. Then that's going to be productive. My wonderful way to talk about, I don't know, my favorite book will have to wait for the moment. You know, so always determine what is important. Yeah? Because at the end of the day, you're learning, you're trying to find the most efficient way of using your time. You know, it's nice to have I would like to speak like a native speaker, or I like to speak like a proficient speaker, but you know, it's not going to be very useful. Maria, you're just saying, is that just a symbolical percentage? I think it's a benchmark. Yeah, it is symbolical. I mean, you know, we're not sort of saying it's got to be 20%, but you know, when we work out what I'm saying is you're looking at, well, how much what you're looking at is, yeah, it is a symbolical percentage because it doesn't have to be 80% definite. But what you're thinking about is what takes most of your time now. What do you need to communicate in your English now? When I have a lot of clients, they say to me, right, you know, I have to communicate, you know, I have to talk to clients, phone calls, I have to send them emails, I have to give presentations. So, you know, it'll be a mixture, right? And in reality, that's what happens. Most of us don't just have one area. But then you need to break it down. You think, okay, so from that point, what would you say in your working week or your working month? And I often say in a week, in a month, how much of that time is split between these functions, these areas where you need to communicate in English? And where would you say you need to focus on first? You know, how important is it? Yeah, maybe your job requires you to present a lot in English. Well, then that's going to be your focus. Yes, you have to still write emails. Yes, you have to still make phone calls. But presentations is where most of your work is focused on. And all our jobs, in a lot of our jobs, there are areas that we focus on. So if that's the case, then let's work on that. Because you are then focusing on the area that's most important first. Once you feel comfortable in that, then move on to the next thing. Because it makes sense. It makes much more sense to be productive on the area that is taking up most of your time and where you are creating your most valuable work. You know, it's just like you spending time on your best performing clients. You know, when I was in investment management, we would concentrate on the clients with, you know, who, you know, our top 20% clients, the ones who had the most money with us under management. It just makes sense because, you know, the more we do that, the more their portfolios will grow in size and the more fee income we would earn. Then, of course, you don't want to ignore all the other clients, but you have to decide a proportion. Similarly with English. Similarly with the way you communicate in English at work. Decide what you need to focus on first. And once you've decided that, then think, well, what is the language I need most for this particular area? If it's presentation, it could be, well, what's the area that you find most difficult? Break it down further, and then you work out how much language you need. And you'll find that actually, when you look at it, the overall, it'll only be the 20%. It will be a very limited amount of language you need. So suddenly this idea that there's just so much I have to learn is not so impossible because you've broken it down. That's what I mean. You bring it down and then you think, this is manageable. Yes, I can fit this in to my daily, weekly, monthly life, busy life, because now I'm focusing. So that famous me time, that moments where you have set aside the time, now you know what you need to focus on. Because here's the thing, we can set the time out. Okay, so we do that. But then we're sitting there going, now where do I start? Where do you start? So you need to focus more. Okay, I'm going to start on this. This is where I need. And this is where I coach my clients on. This is where. And you know it. No teacher will know that. Only you know what's the best thing I need to do. So again, it's being smart. Let me focus on what I need to do first. And then I will work on something else. Once you've got that confidence going, once you feel confident, once you feel empowered to communicate on what you spend most of your time communicating in English with, then you will find that you find the time to do something else. Because it's inevitable. This is how we are. This is our psychology. The more you begin to think, wow, I can do this. This is great. You feel energized. You feel empowered. Then you'll think, I can do this. I can go one step further. So that's why it is. It's those small steps, but then concentrating. Be very focused. Be clever about it. Be smart about it. So that 20% has to be all about efficient productivity. Yeah, but as Maria says, it is a symbolical percentage. Yeah, it doesn't have, it could be 70-30, it could be 60-40, whatever that is. You decide. You're the one in control here. Nobody else. At the end of the day, you need to concentrate on your need to have. I need this language to do this. The nice to have, you're just going to have to put it aside and say, yep, it's just going to have to wait. Because the only way you're going to focus is that way. So the nice to have, it's just got to go. Yeah, it's like when I say to, when some people think, well, when I'm perfect, I'll speak English. When I don't make mistakes, I'll start speaking in English. Well, that's never going to happen. None of us are perfect. I make mistakes in English. You make mistakes in your own language. So the thing is to decide, no, I'm going to start somewhere and I'm going to start here and I'm going to say, okay, so what is important for me to communicate? Where do I want to communicate? I'm going to do that and I'm going to work on that. Gabriela, what have you just said? Gabi, you just said, basically, that the biggest, most complex difficulty is the right selection of words in each occasion. Exactly. But once you know what the occasion is, you know the language, in your own language, what you need. And if you're already communicating in English for those particular situations, you're not starting from zero, you're starting from a base and you can work on it. I have another client, my client that I mentioned to you, who was so terrified of phone calls, but she spends also a lot of time on emails. Now, her level of English is not super high, and she's very nervous. But when we were looking at her, I was looking at her emails, she has quite a lot of language there. And I said, you don't, and she said, well, I'd like to develop I said, no, let's get this one right. Let's get you feeling comfortable writing, sharing, so that your emails are looking clearer, more concise. It takes you less time to write. And then we move to the next step. And it wasn't a question of giving her more language. It was a question of, with what she had, let's improve it. Then we can go to the next stage. And so that's what, you're developing it small and little at the same time. The problem is that all of us are in a hurry. We are rushing. We want to achieve results fast because that's what everyone tells us we have to do. But it's not efficient. And that's what I'm talking about when I talk about productivity. It's not efficient. So you need to concentrate on, what do I need to know now? Because I remember she said to me, I said, this is wonderful. You're doing so well, Carol. I'm so pleased with you. You did it. You made that phone call. Great. She said, yeah, Shanti, I know. But, my English, wasn't perfect. I said, but did the client understand you? Did you understand them? Did you get the job you needed to get done? All done? Finished? Fantastic. You've done your job that your company is paying you for. For the moment, this will do. This has to do. Yes, I would love to be able to, yeah, wonderful. Yes. Do you have more time in your working day? Do you have more time in your week? Do you have time to put it in? No. Fine. So, here's the thing. If you don't have the time, accept what time you can give to it and accept that I'm going to concentrate on the need to do, need to have. Be brutal. Be efficient. That's just reality now. We don't have the luxury of, oh, it would be lovely too. Yeah, it would be lovely too, if you're prepared to put in the time. But if you don't, and we've all established that we don't have much time, then work more cleverly. Work smart. Focus. What do I need now? Right, that's what we're going to do now. And forget trying to be this. No, you've got a job to do. And that's how we're going to do it. Some clients might think, oof, this is quite, I think, no, this is how it is. You're learning business English to be productive in business. You're not learning English to write a poem or to write an essay. That's why you're here. If you want to write an essay, you want to write things, then great. But that's for something else. That's for a different goal. So, you need to be very, very focused on that. Ladies and gentlemen, so I think we have done productivity, haven't we? So 80-20, as I say, it's not a hard, fast rule. It is you decide your percentages. But you have to decide what you're going to focus on. You need to decide, how productive am I going to be? You set the time out. You've set your goal. This is what you want to do. You now set the time, and now you're going to say, well, what am I going to focus on first? Decide what is important. Build that bank of vocabulary, the phrases, the expressions, whatever you need, and you will be using them time and time again, because that's what we all do. No matter how proficient we are. I only use a bank of expressions. I don't have so many. I don't have time. So do that and feel confident that you are getting the job done. And that's all it is. Thank you so much. I hope that sort of has given you some ideas, and I'd love to know what your ideas of how you could work smarter, how what is the focus on your English at the moment? What do you communicate most in English for work? What is it you're doing if it's phone calls? What are you talking about? What are you having to communicate? There'll be something very specific. Right. So how confident are you in that? Right. Now let's work about it. And then you develop it slowly. And so you develop it and include that into your time. And then gradually it gets better and better. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching this. You've been very, very quiet. Some of you have come in and have said, great, yes, no. But I'd love to know what your thoughts are. I'd love to know how you manage your time, how productive you are, and how do you work smarter, because I'd love to know about how you apply the 80-20 rule, or the 70-30, 60-40, 50-50, whatever is important for you. And how do you apply it? But don't forget, that is exactly what you need to do. Otherwise, this whole idea of becoming a confident, effective communicator in English becomes an impossible task. We need to break it down, always, always. And always remember what is important and concentrate on what is important now, not in 6 months' time. Because in business, that's what you do, right? So, that's what you've got to do, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for your time. Listen, if you know other people who would enjoy listening to Wednesdays with EWAT, do invite them to the Facebook page. And here is where we meet every Wednesday at 3 p.m. GMT UK time. Next week, we will be looking at the last lesson for February. Again, we'll be talking about the theme of time, but I'll be introducing you to some vocabulary this time. And I will, in the next few weeks, maybe in the next month or so, be launching a Facebook group. And that will be but I will be telling you more. And this will be for the EWAT community. So for those of you who haven't signed up and want to join the EWAT and want to be part of the Facebook group, it will be a closed group. So I'd like you to join but it will only be open to those who are part of the EWAT community. So, but I will tell you more about it. In the meantime, I hope you have a very productive week. Thank you so much for watching and listening. I'm so glad you found the advice. I hope the advice was useful, Sherilyn. Thank you, Gabi. I'm so glad you were able to join. Keiko, I'm glad you like the 80-20 rule. There's more information on that. If you want, join the EWAT community, because there was a blog post I wrote last week on it, and you'll be able to then get access to the blog and to have a look at that. But if you want more information on my blogs, take a look at englishwithatwist.com, and don't forget to subscribe there. I would love you to be part of that. See you next week, 28th of February, same place, same time, 3 p.m. GMT UK time. And we will be again talking about the concept of time, but this time I'll be adding vocabulary in that. So I hope you can join me. I look forward to it. And in the meantime, this is me, Shanti Kumaraswamy Street, saying ciao for now and see you next week. Happy English. Keep being productive. Stay tuned. Stay focused on what's important, ladies and gentlemen, and let the nice to have go, because otherwise you are just going to go completely crazy with all the work you need to do. Ciao, folks. Thanks so much for your time. Take care. See you next week. Ciao.